Okay, let's see. Trying to see, make sure I got some good lighting here. Boy, where do I start with this interesting topic that I've chosen? What's going on, everyone? Hope you're having a good night. This is Loto Drandle. This is the name I go by here. Um, this is gonna be a little out of my realm, I guess, if you wanna call it that, simply because of the fact that I'm going to be talking about a topic that, quite frankly, does not sit well with me just because of the fact that I normally don't care when it doesn't if it doesn't involve me, but over the last couple of months I've had some time to actually think about the issue and the widespread effects that it's had, and with what's been going on over the last couple of days, I think at this point I want to at least get this out there. Hello, Jeff Giordano. How are you doing? So, before I go any further, how does is the picture and audio okay? This is my second stream with using my software, so I'm trying to make sure everything is okay here. Hello, yeah, for the second person that's here, hello. Hope you're having a good night as well. So, make sure I got these set up as well. Okay, so where to start with this? So, for those of you, as those you will already know, the entire world has been under a global pandemic that of the COVID-19 coronavirus, which has, for lack of a better term, has taken the world by storm to a point where it has shut down a lot of places, companies nationwide, worldwide, what have you, shut borders down in the craziest ways. It has divided, I will say it's divided a lot of people, whether you're in the US, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in Japan, China, anywhere in the world. It has caused a lot of negative effects, I guess you could say, to put it bluntly. But at this point, it has been roughly 4 months since this has started off, when it originated in Wuhan, China, the Wuhan province. And there has been some good, and there's been bad, a lot of bad. So I'm going to start off by kind of just talking about, what has happened since the virus has broken from when it started till today. And today is right now, at least where I'm at, is the 21st of April. For those of you, it will likely already be the 22nd, which is a Wednesday. Here, it's still Tuesday. So, it started off in China, and China went into a quick containment measures, which caused their cases to stabilize relatively quickly, but on the flip side, they're here and there. The countries that got hit have seemingly been hit the hardest, at least in regards to cases. Italy had a 24-hour spike of 15,000 coronavirus cases, as I said, within 24 hours, one calendar day. As of this month, about midway through this month, the United States has the most cases and the most deaths. So, this going off of the wiki here, the current number of cases that are confirmed, you have to forgive me here, I'm still cycling through all the information just to make sure that I got it right. Okay, cases. Here we go. Yeah, deaths. We're not needing to look at that just yet. What I need is the all right country diagnosis, testing, cause, signs, symptoms. Okay. Here we go. So as of, and this is, they're hopefully they get an update on this. As of the 12th of April, 2020, have been more than 2.56 million cases reported worldwide, with over 177,000 people having died, while more than 681,000 people have recovered. So if we want to, and I'm not the kind of person that likes to go on a mathematical standpoint, but just for the sake of the mathematics. So if there have been 2.56 million cases, so over 2,560,000 confirmed cases, if we take that dividing by the number of people recovered, we're gonna do 81,000 as our excuse me, as the number, divide by 2,560,000. The percentage is a little over 26.601%. So if you want to round it up, that's 27% of the population that has come down with this virus have recovered, while 177,000, so if we put that number in, and judging by that, it's going to be under 10%. So 6.914%, so round up 7%. So, and by the 26th of March, the US overtook China with the highest number of, and Italy with the highest number of confirmed cases. And we also ended up taking the record for the most deaths as well, with over 20,000 deaths. Now, with that being said, there has been a lot of discussion, there's been a lot of addresses, there's been a lot of actions that have been put in place, that have been done, talked about here, there, everywhere, you name it. Now, the issue is that this epidemic has caused what has been called social distancing, which I saw this at my job. I saw this in a lot of different places. So I'm going to just kind of start with local. So where I'm at, which is in Florida, the beaches were all shut down and gatherings were pretty much banned. We'll just put it like that. Then come to find out, near the end of last week, the governor decided to reopen the beaches, but, and I'm going to say, and this is going to be kind of quotation here, but only gatherings of no less than 25 to 50 people. Well, also come to find out that Japan has started its second wave of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, this is not to incite panic. Here's the problem with this is what I feel, and this is going to be my own opinion. Politics be damned. Because to me, this ain't about politics, this is about health. Worldwide health. I don't care if you're from Japan. I don't care if you're from Mexico. I don't care if you're from South America, Africa, Europe. Everyone around the world is at risk of this virus. The fact that people, and there were a couple articles I actually read about where there were people who actually intended to spread this virus. And oh boy, thinking about this just makes my stomach churn. But there was one instance, an 18-year-old and I'm not going to mention names, I'm just going to kind of give the rough and around summary. An 18-year-old individual in Texas was making videos after videos talking about how they were going to infect every insert expletive here they see, because if they were going to die, all these insert expletive here were going to go down with them. And the government now has turned it to a point where the people who intentionally spread, whether it's threatening to spread or actually do so, could face federal charges. The charge being, if to make sure I say this correctly, federal terrorism, because of the way that this virus works. You could sneeze. If you have it, it's you pretty much put it out there for somebody to actually get, and it's then there's a Facebook, or at the very least a live stream of another individual. I'm not gonna say it's Facebook, YouTube. I don't remember the exact, but it was up. It was circling the internet for a good bit of time, where another individual was going through a store and proceeded to lick rows upon rows of deodorant as the article quoted, mocking this coronavirus pandemic, which, as a lot of people will likely agree, this is very serious. The fact that and I can't say nobody, because a lot of people are taking this seriously. Like, for example, because of the coronavirus, parents so those who have children that are in schools nationwide have pretty much shut down, with the exception of having to do it via an online homeschooling, if you will, which can work, and but on the flip side, may not work. Now, it varies from individual to individual. How the parent does with homeschooling, or does the child respond to the online portions, like, or how quickly do they catch on to various subjects. Now, trying to make sure how I say this. There's been people who have protested state-imposed stay-at-home orders because of businesses being shut down. Myself, about 2 weeks ago, I was furloughed from my job. And for those of you who don't know, are not familiar with the term furlough, it's a temporary layoff from employment, but it is not an actual termination, meaning that I could still use the employee discount. That when this pandemic, I'll call it a crisis, because I honestly feel that's what this has become. It's a health crisis. That when things settle, when they stabilize, however long it may take, whether it's 1 month, not going to happen, I guarantee you that. 6 months, possibly, if everyone across the country, across the world, pulled their head out of their butts and actually made a team effort to make sure that everyone did what they should. It's 5G. Hey, Gabriel, how you doing? I hadn't seen you in a while. So, if everyone, citizens, politicians, businessmen, workers, just however you want to put this, if they pulled their heads out of their butts and just looked at the fact that this virus is actively endangering our health, it has already had a very strong effect on our economy, negatively, I might add. Sure, the news people say that the stock markets are slowly going back up, but here's the problem. You got millions of people out of jobs. You've got politicians pointing the finger at oh, this person didn't handle the crisis right, or hey, China was covering this up, which, by the way, I still say is a conspiracy theory. The fact that everyone's like, oh, China was trying to cover it up. Whether it's true or not, unless you got proof, you can't exactly point the blame. The fact that they stabilized in the short amount of time that they have, but are still actively using quarantine, containment, restricted travel. Well, actually, you could say completely stopping travel or as I think it's called, foreign travel, international travel, if you want to put it like that. And then you've got people or countries that, and I'm not gonna lie, where I live, I enjoy it here. I ain't gonna lie one bit, but I will say, hopefully the lighting in here doesn't suffer for the camera as a result of me doing that. But you got places that, and I'll use two examples: New York, Mississippi. Right now in the United States have the highest confirmed cases of COVID-19. Stay-at-home order has been imposed, as far as I know, all across the country. Pretty much the entire country of the United States of America is on lockdown. There was one article I read, and sadly I didn't get a chance to pull it up, where people in Michigan were protesting over the stay-at-home order, which, and here's the thing, I'm not the kind of person to tell someone what they should or shouldn't do, but I will say this: look around you. We are in the midst of a pandemic. Businesses are having to close. If businesses have to close because it is mandated, if there is something in place to keep those businesses from permanently shutting down, meaning that as a result, and I'll use an example, my job, because of predictions of not making as much sales, which I ain't gonna lie, that is happening, I was furloughed. I was temporarily laid off from my job. And I hate it. I hate the fact that I cannot go to work. But I understand why it had to happen. I see no reason to want to protest because of the simple fact that, sure, protesting you might get to a certain point, but protesting, if you're in an area that is high risk, and because here's the worst part about this virus. The virus is especially dangerous to those who are immunocompromised. So those who have had health conditions, respiratory problems, heart conditions, like anything that is affecting your health physically, you are at a much higher risk. I'll give one good example. One of my best friends, I won't say his name, but he has type 2 diabetes. Actually, I have a couple friends who have type 2 diabetes. I even have a friend who has, and I'm trying to make sure I say this right, epileptic seizures. If I said that wrong, God forgive me, but you get what I'm saying. Those who have conditions like that affect them physically, that weakens their immune system, they're at much higher risk. And I mean I'm not going to go into numbers here because I'm not a doctor. But the fact that it is especially lethal to elderly whose immune systems have, I won't say shut down, but have slowed down. Those who have health issues where their system cannot fully fight. Why would you want to protest? Because here's the thing, you could be like, oh, this won't happen to me, this won't happen to me, and then you'll say it until it finally does. I used to say, oh, I could never, and this is completely off topic, I could never be robbed, I could never have anything stolen from me of value, and then last year, it happened. You see, for every action, there is a reaction. There are people out there who understand, and then there are people out there who are Virus doesn't care about their protests. Amen to that, Gabriel. That is the truth right there. Right then and there. With the outbreak that's happened, there has been misinformation. There has been disseminated information or disinformation, if you want to call it. There has been accusations of governments downplaying the outbreak. There has been accusations of organizations not managing the crisis like they should. Like there has been so much opposition. There has been so much divisiveness or dividing of people, of nations over this pandemic. There are some places that are strapped, and meaning that they have none of. They're strapped for emergency supplies, medical stuff. Going through the stuff that I have read so far about this outbreak, the only places, in all honesty, that may not be affected are, and I don't want to say third world countries, because that is not entirely correct, because there are places across the world, third world countries if you want to call them, that are affected. So looking here at right now I'm looking at the map here. This is based on excuse me, a map of the COVID-19 verified number of infected per capita as of. So this is as of April 1st, 2020. Since it's a rapidly, and I'm reading this word for word. So, and this is off the wiki. You can pull this up as well. Since it's a rapidly evolving situation, new cases may not be immediately represented visually. Refer to the primary article 2019-20 Coronavirus Pandemic or the World Health Organization situation reports for most recent reported case information. And there's multiple boxes. So the darkest red that's in here is greater than 2,000 cases per million inhabitants. So, greater than 2,000 cases. So 2,001 plus per 1 million. The United States is right now looks to be one of a few countries, one of 3, 4, maybe 5 countries that is in that category right now. Like I said earlier, we currently have the most confirmed cases, and we currently have the most confirmed deaths to this virus. And as somebody who lives in a country where there is a lot of people that are divided, whether it's political, whether it's religious, whether it's racial, and I hate to think of the last term, because of the simple fact that it's like Gabriel said, when he said virus don't care about their protests. Well, it doesn't care what the color of your skin is. It doesn't care where you're from. You could get this virus. And the one thing that had startled most people is that how is it that children have, for the most part, come out of it with minimal, whether it's symptoms, what have you. And the theory by medical workers and scientists is that because of their still developing immune system, that their systems are adapting. But it still doesn't change the fact that any and all parents, any good parent, as I'm sure most would agree, would want to do anything and everything in their power to make sure that their child is not anywhere in proximity to someone who may have it, or does everything to distance their children because of the risk. For an example, for me, where I am, I can't leave the house. Children cannot leave the house. The only time would be if we were to go to the school to get their lunches, or if they had a doctor's appointment. And that's the other thing with doctor's appointments. Like when they get their shots or checkups, what have you. Right now, I'm not going to say segregated because it's not exactly segregated, but they've split up the healthy from the sick. They've split up healthy from sick. That is how serious this is. That's how alarming this situation has become. That they want to do everything to keep those who are currently healthy from getting sick, even if it means splitting we'll say half of a doctor's workday with the healthy, and then the other half. Once the healthy are gone, they tend to, it's the sick. So like, let's say morning, like from we'll say 8 a.m. to noon or 1 p.m. And I'm just using this as an example, guys. This is not an actual business model, but you get my point. So from 8 to 1, healthy. So at 1 o'clock to close, the sick, the ones that are currently affected, whether they're sick whether it's a fever, a flu, whether it's strep, and I'm just using those as examples. That's what, at least with the children's place where they go to for their checkups and shots and what have you. That's what their doctor's office has done. Is that how it is around the country? I don't know. I'm not there. I hope that's what they do. But let me get to where the other part of this. Why did the virus get to this point? And has it been poor treatments, poor leadership, and this last part of my says, with dot, dot, dot. And now why do I have that? Because there are multiple issues that are going on as a result of this virus, whether it's being handled properly whether it's by state officials, whether it's by the citizens within countries, whether it's by the federal governments. I looked when a lot of people would say that America was the greatest country in the world. There was a clip I remember watching. I can't remember it. What I remember, it was from a show called The Newsroom. I remember the clip. The name of the clip was "America is not the greatest country in the world anymore." And here's the funny thing about when it comes to movies, when it comes to TV shows, there's always something that speaks. Don't want to say the truth, nothing but the truth. So help you God. Can't remember that whole little phrase, like when you put your hand, when you swear an oath when you're under oath in court. But the fact remains, there are so many issues in this country. There is still a strong division among the people. This pandemic has brought out some of the best in some people, but it's brought out the worst in others. The fact that there would be individuals who want to intentionally spread the pandemic, those who want to falsify information, those who do these whole conspiracy theories, playing the blame game, politicking their way around, and the fact that people just can't see the writing on the wall. One example is that, and I'm going to use an instance that happened, someone who I used to consider a good friend, back from when I was going through school with this individual, had decided, well, I'm not going to say decided, but took another friend of mine's post, a post that I had also replied to, and the post said, when this is all over, I would like to celebrate with having a drink with the first X number of people. I remember saying, sadly, I'm not going to be able to be counted as one of those people. Now, this individual assumed that I was referring that I'm saying that I'm never going to come down with a virus, which was not the case at all. This friend of mine that had made the post is living in Alabama, while I had moved out of Alabama last year, and the post was literally last week. But it went from an innocent, genuine post with an equally genuine, innocent comment, devolving because of one individual to just straight up politics, talking, calling this virus the CCP virus, or as for those who are not familiar with the acronym, the Chinese Communist Party virus, which to me is bullshit. Then was one piece of news where that China is being held responsible for the cause, when in truth we can't prove, unless you have physical hard evidence that shows, hey, not only did they cause the spread, not only did they cause the virus outbreak, that they try to cover it up. And here's the thing: some people even went as far as to say that it was made as a I can't believe I'm going to say this, a BOW, a bioorganic weapon. And here's the funny part: the fact that I'm saying that, and it's also a reference out of freaking Resident Evil, is scary as hell. That it's a bioweapon, and I'm looking at it like, why? Why on God's green earth would you call it that? And that it's being used as spy tactics, or that it's used to cull the populace. It's the stupidest things have come out of this whole ordeal, yet nobody seems to realize that, or then you get people that will latch onto it. I'm sorry, guys, if I'm going in 100 different directions here, because I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the sheer idiocy. So let's talk about poor treatment / poor handling of the pandemic. Well, as I said earlier today, it was reported that Japan is undergoing a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the problem here, the reason why, is that it is believed that Japan's quarantining was believed to be substandard and not enforced. Whether this is true or not, hopefully, as more details as the story develops, more will come. But as of right now, I'm actually going to type this in just to get, here we go, deja flu. And so the very first time that this broke out was last week, that this particular story broke out. Deja flu, second wave, hits northern Japan, which is kind of, I want to say scary, but at the same time, and I don't like to speak ill of people, whether it's from, whether you're from Japan, like I said, whether you're from China, wherever you live. The fact that a second wave has started, and another thing that has popped in here, and this originates from BBC News, is that the state of Missouri has filed a civil lawsuit in the United States, by the way, against China over this virus outbreak, claiming that China lied to the world and silenced whistleblowers. Which, I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of this, and I will continue what I was saying in regards to potentially poor handling and or poor treatment. So, This was as of 11:46. Title the kind of the introduction of it reads: Should China be worried about the Missouri lawsuit? Civil lawsuit brought by Missouri against China comes at a time when there is increased finger pointing, again, increased finger pointing by the U.S. at Beijing over the pandemic. Excuse me. And this is one part that actually kind of scares me. The current president, I won't say his name, but the current president of the U.S. had initially praised China for how it handled the virus, but after coming under pressure over the outbreak in the U.S., he raised the specter that China might be responsible. Again, do you have proof? Do you have physical, hard evidence? With elections later this year, observers suggest the lawsuit, along with other suits brought by U.S. companies, might serve a political end for the Republican Party. We are seeing a lot of people on the political right focus on the China issue to cover up for the U.S. government's own errors. A professor of international law at the University of Chicago said. I'm not going to give names. So that's the only thing I want to do. If you want, I can copy the article and put it down so you guys can look at it yourself. China itself will have little to fear, though. Foreign governments are being protected from being sued in U.S. courts, and if the U.S. did want to bring claims, it would have to do so on an international platform where Beijing would have the right to respond. A state sues a country. Not just a country, but a foreign country. Why? This is why, and this is why I say, politics be damned. Politics be damned. So now, from there, let me mention. I mentioned earlier the Jacksonville beaches being reopened. I'm gonna pull that back up. And there's been a couple of articles here that have popped up. So let me start with the very first one, which was back in April, or technically it's on April. Of course, this thing demands that I do that, so I'm not going to be able to use that one. That's perfectly fine. Three days ago. Yep. Here we go. This one comes from April 18th, 2020. The mayor of Jacksonville reopened beaches and parks in Jacksonville, Florida on Friday after Governor Ron DeSantis, which at that point is public knowledge, everyone should already know we should already know who our governors are, gave the green light for them to reopen despite the state hitting a record number of coronavirus cases. When they opened at 5 p.m., crowds flooded the area, ignoring social distancing warnings. Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, and Atlantic Beach are now open from 6 to 11 a.m. and 5 to 8 p.m. for quote-unquote essential activities. They are closed during all of the times. More than 25,000 people in Florida have been infected with COVID-19. Schools, businesses, and public events, schools, business and public events are all closed or canceled to try to slow the spread, according to the Florida State Department of Health. Curry said recreational activities consistent with social distancing guidelines such as walking, biking, hiking, fishing, running, swimming, taking care of pets, and surfing are considered essential and do not contradict DeSantis' executive order. Here's the problem. Surfing? How is that a recreational activity? Okay, how is that considered essential? You get on a surfboard, you surf the waves, or you float on the waves. I hate to say it, that's not essential. Walking, biking, hiking, hiking. I can kind of see it, but again, not essential. Running, potentially essential. Swimming, not exactly essential. Biking. All of these, the only one that I can see that's potentially essential is walking, running, taking care of pets. I could that one that taking care of pets I can kind of see, like take them to if you need to take them to the dog park, which mine has not gone to in months, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. The fact that this can be the beginning of the pathway back to normal life. Here's the problem: people don't they don't listen. The fact, because let me read back what I said. More than 25,000 people have been infected with COVID-19, and that when the beaches had opened at 5, crowds flooded the area and willingly ignored social distance warning, the social distancing warnings. Beginning of the pathway back to normal life? No. You just opened a path back to chaos and panic, and again, risking widespread. Please respect and follow these limitations. Stay within the guidelines for your safety as well as for the safety of your neighbors. Okay, Mayor, if that's the case, do us all a favor. Keep the beaches closed. DeSantis, keep beaches closed. They are not essential. You want to stop the virus from spreading? A beach is a huge gathering point. You frickin' know it. And you could say, oh, we didn't know people were going to ignore. No, you flippin' knew, because you know when you open the beaches, people are going to come in droves, in flocks, if you will. Photos of the Jacksonville beaches show hundreds of people walking, swimming, and talking in large groups, many without face masks. Twitter users Saturday morning called out Floridians for not taking proper precautions as Florida morons trended nationwide. And when I first saw that the beaches were being reopened, yes, our government, our city officials, our government officials are morons. You'd have to be blind as a bat to not see this coming. You'd have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to not see this coming. When the virus first hit the U.S., DeSantis was criticized for not shutting down the state. Thousands of people, including reckless spring breakers, packed the state beaches at the time, which leading to closures. What we're trying to do is maintain a scenario where we're not crowding the beach. We still have to be cognizant of the 6-foot distance between people, Jacksonville Beach mayor told reporters Friday, and we're looking to keep people from just accumulating out here. First, we inform people what the rules are, then we warn if they do not comply. And then we take additional action if necessary if they still don't comply. Well, according to these pictures, and there's actually a live picture here, looks like one, I'll give you benefit of the doubt. You told them the rules. Looks like you didn't try to enforce them, though. It's disturbing. So let me now jump to the decision to reopening, attracting national media attention and scrutiny, which, as I guessed, was going to happen. The mayor took a strong backlash for it and has been taken to task for his decision. The news that Duval County had reopened its beaches on the same day that Florida reported 58 deaths from the virus, highest daily death toll since the pandemic had begun, was reported by national media outlets over the weekend, such as Washington Post, CBS, New York Times, CNN, Fox News, USA Today. Now, a lot of people I know don't like to trust the news that they're politically aligned. But let's be honest, the decision made to reopen the beaches, F politics, it was just downright dumb. In every aspect of the word, dumb. Hashtag Florida morons trends after people flock to reopen Florida beaches. As I suspected. Images of thousands of people on Jacksonville Beach Friday evening spread across the internet and even spawned an insulting hashtag. Hashtag Florida moron. Very, very scary. Officials dumbfounded as Florida beaches reopened 3 days after a death spike. This move is so dumb that I had to make sure it wasn't fake news, one city commissioner had tweeted. You guys, it isn't fake news. And sadly, it's not. That's the disturbing part. Jacksonville mayor was defensive about the national coverage in a series of tweets. We need methodical steps to open our cities. Shutting down cities indefinitely is not an option. Yes, it is an option. You're just an a-hole. You're a hashtag Florida moron. Oh, reopening the beaches 3 days after a death toll spike. Knowing that we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Which, by the way, like I said earlier, we currently have the highest number of cases confirmed and highest number of deaths confirmed. Granted, Florida may not be as bombarded by cases as New York, Mississippi, just to name a couple. But still, it is a coronavirus, it is a pandemic, it is a health crisis. National media has responsibility here. I'm going to lead a step-by-step way forward. Governors and mayors will do the same. Really? Then why is everyone calling you out for your stupid decision-making? National media, please think responsibly before you publish. How about you think responsibly before you put your citizens at risk? Florida man meme has evolved. That's true, Gabriel. That is definitely true. Sorry, I am jumping from spot to spot here. I'm gonna sling this tab back over so that way I can just jump from comment to back to article. So that way I keep up with the comment section as I go. Oh. Citizens make decisions based on what is reported by media, he wrote. This worldwide pandemic has given certain cable news outlets and international media an issue to drive ratings. You're a frickin' moron. This worldwide pandemic, let me repeat this, has given certain cable news outlets and international media an issue to drive ratings. Mr. Mayor, this is a pandemic. Millions upon millions of lives are at stake, are at risk. And you want to put your city, the people who live in your city residents, you want to put their lives at stake. And why? Because we need methodical steps. Shutting down cities indefinitely is not an option. Pull your head out of your political butt. Because as far as I'm concerned, this isn't politics. This is health. And you are willing to sacrifice people to stroke either your own ego or a higher official's ego. Local journalists / media will share the facts. Tune into and read local news. While there was a large crowd when the beaches reopened, people are following guidelines. Looking at this picture right here, you have a few that are following. There's some pictures here where, yes, they are following. But here's the issue. If you've set in place a restricted number of people to gather, if you have restricted why would you completely destroy that very thing you impose by opening beaches, knowing that hundreds, maybe thousands of people are going to show up? And here's the other thing. DeSantis announced Saturday, and I'm reading this part's from the Daily Beast. DeSantis announced Saturday that K-12 schools would remain closed for the rest of the school year, saying he did not want to force families who were uncomfortable with the idea to return to classrooms. Just a day earlier, he had greenlit the opening of some beaches, arguing Floridians need fresh air. You mean to tell me that going outside, literally, like, I know you guys, you can't see because it's nightfall right now, but are you trying to tell me that if I were to go out here, that's not fresh air? This is not fresh air? How is this not fresh air? How is me going outside to check the mail, to just walk up and down the sidewalk for 2 to 3 minutes, maybe a little more? How is that not getting some fresh air? How is me not going out into my backyard to play with my dog? How is that not getting fresh air? Politics, meet common sense. No wonder they're polar opposites. Then again, anything is polar opposite when it comes to politics, unless it favors them. I think people, they're going to be responsible. They're going to be safe, but they want to get back into a routine. Going to be responsible. They're going to be safe, but they want to get back in a routine. You destroyed the routine. Well, no. The pandemic destroyed all of our daily routines. Kids are no longer going to school. They're having to learn at home. And I'm pretty sure parents are going crazy. Oh my God. I remember getting on one of my games, on Warframe actually. Somebody, it was last week, had made a comment and it actually struck a chord, saying, parents have been locked up with their kids for 6 weeks or more. Talk about punishment. Now, I wouldn't call it punishment. It's a pandemic. Though I'm sure some parents may feel that that it's a punishment because instead of their kids going to school to get their education, when the school day is done, then they come home. They're having to do it all from home. So I hate to break it to you, Mr. Mayor, Governor DeSantis, this beginning of a pathway back to normal life, normal, you have the gall, you have the audacity to call it normal. Normal is an illusion. Normal is only the settings on a dishwasher, on a game difficulty, and a washer and dryer. Because everyone's view of normal is so different. You may be able to find the pinpoint and pick some similarities here and there, but not one person is the exact same when it comes to their definition of normal. Plus, those who have children, families who are out of jobs, families whose kids cannot go to school, this pathway back to normal, no. There is no normal anymore. And it's even been stated, unless a vaccine is discovered, made, and able to completely cure this pandemic, the U.S. returning to normal may never happen. And I agree, it may never happen. Especially when you got the people nowadays especially the people who get their kicks off of inflicting pain, physically or emotionally or health-wise, pain and suffering on the general populace. The fact that we had people that intentionally tried to spread the virus. Now, whether they were confirmed to have it or not, no one knew, but the fact that people were willing to, one, make scathing videos saying they were going to spread this virus. Number two, a live stream showing an individual licking rows upon rows of deodorant. And people are like, oh, that's just like 1, 2, 3 people. Yeah, you may think it's small numbers. They can add up, though, if there's enough people that are, I don't want to say psychotic enough, but are cold-blooded enough, cold-hearted enough to want to do it. That's why I say this pandemic can bring out the worst of anybody, of people. It could take bad people and make them go worse. This makes hundreds of people flock to the beaches in Duval County, some engaging in group sports like volleyball or spikeball. And again, and here's the funny thing. The photos of the scene drew outcry on social media, spawning hashtag Florida morons, as well as disdain from officials elsewhere. When a person doesn't believe in science, they do dumb things. Lake Worth Beach City Commissioner tweeted, when a person in power doesn't believe in science, they do dumb things that hurt the public. This move is so dumb, I had to make sure it wasn't fake news. Yeah. The Miami mayor, who contracted the virus himself, called the reopening very concerning, adding that Florida was not out of the woods yet. That's someone who's got their head on their shoulders, but I'm pretty sure also coming down with it yourself gives you a whole new perspective. When they talk about the curve flattening and the curve descending, we still have not seen a major descension. Major descension, as in cases from going up, like where you're getting a spike per day, and then as the day goes, to where you're having like maybe one every 5 to 10 days. And I'm concerned that if we're not careful, that we could see another flare-up. The state's deadliest day yet occurred last week on Tuesday, when a reported 72 people died of the virus within a calendar day, 24 hours. The number of confirmed cases was still increasing on Saturday, bringing the totals to 25,269 confirmed cases and 740 deaths. Nearly 3,500 people in the state have been hospitalized due to the virus, according to the Florida Department of Health. Now, again, the Miami mayor made it pretty clear. It's crystal clear. The decision is very bad. Consequences evident. Clear as a bell. Clear as crystal. It's terrifying because, yeah, it's a scientific certainty when it comes to this virus. It has been researched and studied. And the fact that somebody who knows the facts, who's in a position of power, reopens several public beaches. I think it's safe to say. I'm not going to say this place that the country could be on the verge of anarchy, because it's not. But I will say this. If the governments can't figure out that what they're doing is wrong. If the or in this particular case, Jacksonville's mayor, whatever, I don't know what he was thinking, but I really hope he closes the beaches if he hasn't already, which I'm almost certain that ain't gonna happen. And I hate to say that because look what's happening now. Look what is happening now. So let me now jump to where the mayor responds to the national criticism. The mayor lashed out at national media after the city decided to reopen beaches. Decision was ridiculed as Florida still has several outbreaks. That is the truth. How quickly should America open up? This is the transcript. How quickly should America open up? That debate is playing out in the White House briefing room, on social media, and in cities around the country. Take Jacksonville, Florida. It closed its beaches a month ago to prevent the spread, and this weekend they opened back up. Almost immediately, a national backlash erupted. The hashtag #FloridaMoron started trending on Twitter. Now the mayor is defending his position. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to read bits and pieces. Why did the mayor decide to reopen the beaches? I think part of it is he was getting a lot of pressure from the beach culture here in Jacksonville. Beach culture, and in Florida in general, a lot of Floridians think it's super important to be near the beach and near the water. So when that was closed down, it wasn't in the best interest of a lot of people. Wasn't in the best interest. Shutting the beaches down was in the best interest because by shutting mass gathering places down, you may not completely stop, but you will take the spread and slow it down to a crawl. I'm going to put it like this. By reopening your beaches, you turned that slow turtle into a freaking 100-mile-per-hour freaking bullet when it comes to the risk of spread. You just took a problem that when we just had, as I read earlier, our biggest death spike within a 24-hour period. When you are on the beach, you are not allowed to lay still. You can't spread out a towel and lie down. You can run, you can swim, you can surf, but you just can't stop moving. Really? He says that people can't remain confined forever. They have to be able to do things, so that the beach openings, there's been a lot of policies that have been instilled. But here's, again, the problem. You may think that by reopening the beaches, you are starting a normal life. Or a path back to normalcy. But do you think the people are going to listen to you? That's like, and I'm going to have to use this frickin' analogy, it's like a parent telling their 9-year-old child to stop running around the house, and they just keep running around. It's like telling your child, hey, you're being too loud, the baby's trying to sleep, stop screaming. They're doing it anyway. That's what it feels like when it comes to the public now and city officials / government officials. It's like a parent and a disobedient child. Granted, you will have people who will listen to the limitations, who will adhere and follow, but you still have that niche. You will have that select group of people who will not listen, who will disregard everything you say. And it's that small group that by reopening the beach, you are welcoming trouble in all shapes and sizes. So the mayor had a news conference earlier. What did he say? Well, seeing all the backlash, he defended his decision, thanked the local media for what he called objective coverage, complained about the national media for what he called sensationalized headlines. There's a soundbite of archived recording. I'm not going to play it, but I am going to read what looks to be some snippets. I'm not going to make decisions based on how I think. Critics outside of the city or certain news outlets are going to react and talk about us. But the mayor did address testing, which he stressed. In Jacksonville, like many other cities, it's nowhere near where it needs to be to fully understand how pervasive the virus is. Well, if you're nowhere near where you need to be to understand how pervasive it is, why are you increasing the risk by reopening the beach? That's hypocrisy. Jacksonville has conducted right now 17,000 tests in a metro area of almost a million people. Is it correct that the state of Florida does not have a statewide policy on beaches, which ones are closed and which ones are open? That's correct. It's been more of a county by county decision. The governor has kind of been hands off with it. There's your problem. You mandate a statewide lockdown, but you greenlight reopening beaches? Hmm. Hypocrisy again. In fact, I'm sure you saw the picture of the St. Johns County beach completely crowded. It was a few weeks ago, and then on that county line, you saw Duval County was completely empty because they had already closed down their beaches. So DeSantis has been letting local officials dictate how they want to run their counties. And even today, he tweeted his support at Jacksonville's mayor and how his community has seen declining hospitalizations and fatalities from the coronavirus. I wouldn't reopen a beach until there's been a month where there is no casualties from this virus, fatalities, from the virus. Then and only then would I at least want to reopen beaches. And even then, testing, social distancing, limit the number of people, for sure. This is dumb. Like, this whole ordeal is dumb. Like, we got people who just don't get how bad this virus is capable of becoming. Because nobody either listens or they're too, I don't want to say too stupid. I would say selfish. I would say ignorant. Stupid, maybe. But it's like someone can't accept the truth if the truth is when the truth is spitting in their face. And I use the spitting in the face thing as a figurative and a literal because you could sneeze on, if you had the virus, you sneeze on somebody. That's a door wide open. And there are people who will go without masks. There have been. The pictures I saw, there were maybe a minimal number of people with face masks on as they crowded up the beach, as they went to the beach. And it came via local news. Jacksonville's not the only town to have reopened its beaches in America. Why do you think there was such a national outcry directed at the city in particular? It's a really good question. Nationwide, there are still many parks, lakes, and beaches that are open right now. In fact, just north of Jacksonville in Glenn County, Georgia, beaches were reopened a couple of weeks ago, and there is little to no outrage about that decision. So it's hard to say why it has bubbled up here. But maybe it's because Florida often generates this kind of attention and is kind of picked at by the national media pretty often. I can kind of see that. Florida's a huge chunk of people, of the majority of where people are. Like the most popular areas are the beaches, by far. California, Florida, scoping all the way around, Georgia's beaches, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. Beaches are very, very popular, and they draw huge crowds. So I could even say similar to that of a sporting event. It's when this individual said under pressure by the beach culture, which I can kind of understand how it's a culture because there are people who go to the beach, whether it's a daily basis, weekly, It's the fact remains though is that when you have a pandemic that comes in, when you have a worldwide crisis as this pandemic has become, you want to do everything in your power to make sure that you keep your citizens safe. And you want to make absolutely sure, and I repeat, absolutely sure, that you're not risking your citizens or your residents, yourself, anyone around you. You don't want them at risk. But by doing this, there is risk. By doing this, there is a problem. So there are areas of the within the country that have handled it relatively well. There are areas that have not handled it well. One area that has not handled and I'll use the one that I mentioned before, the Michigan protests because of the stay home order. Protests against the coronavirus stay at home order, and actually, as of a day ago, it has spread across the country. So let me start with, let's see. There we go. Michigan protesters defy stay-at-home order. Workers blocked roads demanding the state reopen after Governor Gretchen Whitmer extended stay-at-home restrictions. Sorry about that. Neither social distancing nor rain could stop protests from demonstrating against
Our community is struggling. My husband is on unemployment for the first time in our life.
I'll just play it just to see.
And it's unwillingly that we're taking unemployment. We want to go back to work. We have bills to pay. How your field trip to the Capitol was canceled? You came anyways.
It's time for our state to be opened up. We're tired of not being able to buy the things that we need, go to the hairdressers, get our hair done. It's time to open up.
Whitmer has been heavily attacked by Republicans for her criticism against the president's response to the pandemic.
I know that people are angry, and that's okay. And if you want to take it out and send it my way, makes you feel better, that's fine. I just urge you, don't put yourself at risk. You know, when people are flying the Confederate flag and untold numbers who gassed up on the way here, we know that this rally endangered people. This kind of activity will put more people at risk. And sadly, it could prolong the amount of time we have to be in this posture.
I hate to say it, but yeah, she's absolutely, the governor is absolutely right. Like, again, I was forced to be unemployed. I'm forced to be unemployed. I didn't want to be. I have to be because of what's happened. But again, why do people? I don't want to call it a sense of entitlement. Like, I get, yeah, you have bills to pay. I have bills to pay. I have to seek unemployment now. It sucks, flat out. But you're willing to risk your health and safety. You're willing to risk other people's health and safety by blocking roads, for one. Exactly. You can't pay bills if you're dead. And that's exactly right. And the people you leave behind suffer for it as well. Because then you leave them brokenhearted. Because you want to protest. And here's the thing. I am 100% I support freedom of speech. I support freedom of the press. I support freedom of expression. But I don't support risking other people's lives for what you want. I want to go back to work. I want the kids to go back to school. Unfortunately, it ain't possible right now. As much as I don't like it, As much as these people who protested don't like it, there's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that can be done. Okay, so here's an article in regard Governor Gretchen Whitmer reminds Lansing protesters that stay-at-home order is working. I see. During a public briefing, points to this chart as she explains that Michigan has seen a 15% reduction in COVID-19 related hospitalizations during the previous 10 days. Okay. We are taking a limited action for a limited time to save people's lives. Who in this great state actually believes they care more about jet skiing than saving the lives of the elderly or vulnerable? The governor also says she respects free speech and the right to gather, but the social distancing is necessary and temporary. And the protest in Lansing, called Operation Gridlock, was contrary to the efforts to curb the spread. This action isn't about our individual right to gather. It's about our parents' right to live. Since Operation Gridlock on Wednesday, the 15th of April, similar protests have been staged across the country. Man in political battleground states, including Arizona and California, Ohio, Kentucky, Minnesota, North Carolina, and Utah. Whitmer said the data surrounding the outbreak proves that the stay-at-home order is limiting the spread of the virus. Okay. I've seen a 15% reduction in the last 12 days, he said. However, COVID-related hospitalizations remain high, as they will for a long time, I'm sure. Whitmer thanked the federal government and private donors for increased support and said more testing was being done with fewer positive results found each day. Because it looks like the highest number of tests that they had was around around the 30th of March, and they had approximately 7,000 to 7,500 tests that day, with the highest confirmed positive tests looks to be about 2,500, maybe higher, on what looks to be the 3rd or 4th of February. The reason why I'm doing an estimation here is because this graph is showing every 6 days. Just so we're clear. And positive tests on the 17th looks to be approximately, according to this graph, approximately 1,000. Which 1,000 is for 1,000 positive tests. That is far better than 2,500. But 1,000 is still, when it comes to this virus, that's still a high number. Some people are like, oh, it's not high. It is. 1,000 is still concerning. You should be concerned about this virus. The fact that people don't seem to listen is what sucks. She also pointed to a 34% reduction in mobility among Michiganders to illustrate her point that staying home helped prevent the spread of COVID-19. And it actually has a graph here. Michigan's total population of 9.96 million, so roughly about 10 million people. Density per square kilometer, 67.9. 65, the percentage, so percent of people of the population being 65 or older, 16%. Stay put percentage, 25%. Relative mobility change, negative 34. So went down 34%. Whitmer reminded Michiganders of the president's comment that fighting COVID-19 was like fighting a war, and that she agrees with that position. Evoking World War II comparisons, Whitmer said Americans were called to put aside political differences and do what needs to be done to fight the virus. She said the fight would be over when the enemy was beaten. This is our moment to show the rest of the country the unbeatable determination and character, strength, fearlessness, and pride of the citizens of Michigan. Whitmer said that 10 days before the expected lifting of the stay-at-home order on Thursday, April 30th, would be some of the most important. I will be working with a team of experts to determine what the next steps look like. But what happens depends on how these next 10 days go. To those of you who want to get back to work as soon as possible, stay home. To those of you who want to make plans for June, July, and August and want to see them through, stay home. She also called on the president and vice president to urge people to stay home. I asked on the calls, I asked the vice president if we, at the federal level, if they could echo our call to our citizens to stay at home in order to stay safe. We know that the stay-at-home orders across the country are working, and my request was that at the national level they echo that call to stay home. He conveyed that was something they would do. And here is the irony, guys, like that when it comes to this. This virus, is it a pandemic? Yeah, it's like fighting a war. Politics aside, people need to put their differences aside. You want to know what made America win the war against Great Britain? Unity. Unity. They were united under one cause: getting their independence, having their own country, their own lives, their lives being their own. Do you know why the Civil War started? Because of slavery. And I hate to say it, slavery to me is probably one of the blackest, darkest days, darkest things of America. I say is because racism is also a thing in the United States of America. A state where people want to provide their families with better lives. The American dream, as a lot of people called it. It's not much of a dream if there's racism, violence, hatred, and damning news outlets and politics. Back then, there were no politics. It was people that led a country united. A people united. Here we are, the year 2020. There is no unity, only division. And there is an old phrase, an old saying that rings true today. United, we stand. Divided, we fall. Politics, again, be damned. Politics don't have a place when there's a health crisis. But what they said is true. This virus has to be fought like the country is in a war. Because right now, it is a war on a virus that has world life-altering capabilities because of the fact of what it does, because of what it can do, coupled with the people who remain ignorant, selfish. It's that simple, guys. This virus is bad. It has made its point. The fact that we have over 2.5 million cases worldwide, not nationwide, worldwide. About 7% of those cases have resulted in death. And you may say that's a small number, but that's the problem. There was a phrase coined by Joseph Stalin. One death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. In my eyes, one death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a tragedy. One case is a tragedy, 2.5 million is a catastrophe. This virus doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what you are. We are all at risk. Some more than others. We as a people. And here's the funny thing. When I think of this, I don't look at myself as a resident of a state or a citizen in a country. I look at myself as a citizen of planet Earth. A living being on planet Earth. Mankind is a single civilization. Just because there are different cultures, different races, different ways of thinking, different politics, political parties, democracy, communism, the fact remains we are still one living entity, one living civilization. This virus can, and depending on what happens, with what people do, will shake the foundations and potentially shred foundations to the ground, burn civilizations to the ground. That's how bad this is. That's how this virus should be treated, that this can potentially destroy lives. If people cannot see that, then humanity is lost. If people cannot see the truth that of how this virus needs to be addressed, of how it needs to be looked at, and this is where I have poor treatments and poor leadership, the more I think about it, the more it is treated incorrectly, the more it is looked at wrongly, the more that people disregard, the more that people lie, misinform, deceive, or spin this issue to further one's own agenda. If we as a people cannot come together to fight off this pandemic, our lives will never return to, quote, end quote, normal. Normal will only be a pipe dream, a fantasy, or as I still view normal as, an illusion. You want normal? Don't do what is convenient for you. Do what is right for the civilization, for the people around you. This pandemic has ended lives. It has ruined families. It has taken families apart, piece by piece. It has shaken countries to the core. From Italy having a 24-hour spike of cases, a 24-hour span having 15,000 confirmed cases within that 24 hours. And then you have the United States taking the number one spot in confirmed cases and deaths. If you guys cannot see that, then you don't have a place, figuratively speaking, in a civilization. We have to come together. We have to do what's right. Whether you're a city official, whether you're an employee at a grocery store, an essential employee, an employee at an essential company, we'll just put it like that. If you want what I want, if you want what everyone should want, and that's for our lives to return to the way they once were, or to even be better. I'm going to put it straightforward. You have to do what is required. Stay home. The only time you should leave is if you're having to go shopping. And shopping stuff has been restricted. And that's something I haven't even touched base on, and I probably won't. I've gone 90 minutes now talking about this virus, of what it is, where it started, how far it's spread. The bottom line is this, guys. If this virus continues to spread, more lives will be affected, more lives will be lost, and we as people will be to blame. Not a country, not a political party, not a state, the entirety. Every person in the world. If you cannot do what is right to one, stop the spread of the virus, two, slow the spread to where it finally can go, to where it finally dissipates and leaves. If you cannot do what is right to save lives, then all I can say to you is that you will not be looked at in a good light. Hey Van Arp, how you doing? I'm safe and sound. Thank you very much. In order for this virus to be gone, we have to do what's right. We have to come together and do the right thing. That means stay at home. That means do what is right for yourself and everyone around you, not what is convenient. When I look at these beach reopenings, to me that's them doing what is convenient, not doing what is right. They did what was convenient, which can cause the consequences to be, some will say, oh, it might just be mild consequences, but what happens if it's a major consequence? What, instead of 72 deaths in 24 hours, you get 144. Or you get 300 and, no, check that. 288. No, actually better yet, 360. No, 720. Are you going to say, oh, but all we did was open the beaches? My point exactly. You open the beaches, you increase the risk, and it spreads some more. That's the consequence I'm seeing. Across the country, across the world, all nations worldwide should be under heavy lockdown, should be under heavy quarantine, enforced quarantine. Because this virus has the potential to ruin a civilization. No questions asked, no exceptions. It doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care where you are. The people who complain, we have bills to pay. As Gabriel in my comments section has said, you can't pay bills if you're dead. You can't go to work if you're dead. You can't help people. You can't help your children with their schoolwork if you're dead. It's that simple. Common sense, guys. Common sense 101. Some countries are treating this virus like it is a fight, like they're fighting a war. All people should treat it like that, meaning that they should exercise the precautions necessary. The stay-at-home order is and I'm going to use this phrase, a necessary evil because you have to quarantine if you are going to have any chance of being able to, for a civilization to shake off a virus as deadly as this. Now, people could compare it to, compared it to the SARS outbreak and the MERS outbreak. One outbreak I remember reading about in history class, the Black Plague, the Black Death, the bubonic plague. Now, people are like, that is different compared to the coronavirus. And that may be true. It's a completely different virus, but it's the same type. It's an outbreak. And look at how many lives were lost. Granted, different rules. Granted, different era. But the same people. And when I say the same people, same civilization, worldwide. The Spanish influenza devastated a nation. Devastated a nation. The coronavirus is capable of devastation to an entire world. And as such, should be treated like it. Okay, sorry guys, I went off on a rant there. I had to get that off my chest. But I do feel this is a serious matter. Politics should not, you don't have to be a politician to see that. You don't have to be in a position of power to see that. You don't have to be a doctor. I'm just an average, in quote unquote, an average Joe, and I see what this does. I see how bad this virus is. I know how bad it is. And the fact that everyone else runs around like it's not that big a deal, this, especially with those who threaten to spread, and then you have those who reopen beaches, and then be like, oh, Florida just gets picked on. No. This is a pandemic. We just had a spike. A record spike at that. We should treat each death like it's a tragedy. Not a statistic. Because we as people, when we die, for those around us, it's a tragedy. We're not statistics. But you have people who act like it is. And sure, you could look at the over 2.5 million cases as a statistic. But what is it to the families who have it? What is it to those people who are in that number? What do you call that? Do you call them statistics? Because I sure as hell wouldn't. Plain as day. So, in closing, what needs to be done is people must stay at home. Those who are able to work, the places that are open, have to keep a lid, have to keep control on the people the number of people in the store. A couple places, Walmart, I'll just use as an example, has a limitation of people. Last I checked, I believe it was either 25 or 50. Which to some people you may say it's not, that's not much. And that may be true. Some may even have it up to 100. But the point is that the distancing, the staying at home, is, as it's showing in the graphs and statistics, they are working. It is helping to cut down the number of cases daily, helping to cut down the number of cases nationally per day, reducing the risk of others getting infected by staying at home is vital. It is vital to keep people from getting sick. Granted, yes, I would have to leave if I want to go shopping for groceries. I would have to leave if I need to get school lunches. I would have to leave to gas up the car. I would have to leave for essential things. But if you must get out of your house, if you have to go somewhere, keep what you're doing essentials only. As if you take anything out of this, if you must leave your house, if you must leave your apartment, wherever you live, if you must leave your place of residence, have it only be essentials. Going to work, going grocery shopping, going to the doctor, essentials. And when I say shopping, I don't mean go shopping for wants and wants and wants. No, shopping for needs, personal needs, food, water, the whole 9 yards. That is it. Outside of that, stay home. Stay home. Protect yourself, protect your loved ones, protect your neighbors, protect everyone around you by staying home. That is common sense 101 when it comes to health. The best way to avoid getting sick, one of the best ways to, especially when it's a pandemic and a virus, stay home. If you are exhibiting symptoms, self-isolate, quarantine, follow the guidelines that are set. If there are limitations at a business, respect and follow them. If you are in a position of power, don't do what is convenient for you or your officials. Do what is right for your citizens. Do what is right for those who you serve. The people don't serve you. You serve them. It is up to you to do what's right for them. The people look to the city officials, the federal governments, federal governments. We look to them for leadership, for guidance. Even though, like I said, in this country, the people are divided in the worst ways possible right now. But if we're going to come out of this on top, if we're going to be able to get out of this fight with this pandemic, we have to put our differences aside. We have to do what is right, not what is convenient. So, rant over, discussion, pretty much wrapped up. I honestly think this virus is beatable, but it's going to take a long time. And that's really all there is to it, guys, is that we need to do what's right, not what's convenient. Otherwise, I think to end this off, I'm going to play some clips. And the reason for that is going to be pretty simple. Because there's a few movies, there's at least one that comes to mind when I think of the whole division over how this virus is being dealt with. I'm going to play at least one. Let's see. Hopefully it goes through. Hopefully.
This is Gettysburg. This is where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg. 50,000 men died right here on this field, fighting the same fight that we're still fighting amongst ourselves today. This green field right here, it's painted red, bubbling with the blood of young boys, smoke, and hot lead going right through their bodies. Listen to their souls, man. Killed my brother with malice in my heart. Hatred. Destroyed my family. You listen. You take a lesson from the dead. If we don't come together right now on this hollow ground, we too will be destroyed. Just like they were. I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other.
Truer words have never been spoken. Because when it comes to this pandemic, it's exactly what's happening. If we don't come together to fight this pandemic united, many more will be destroyed. Many more will die. Thousands more, maybe millions will die if we don't come together. It's that simple. You hold your future in your own hands. Don't destroy it. Protect it. It's that simple. Because the simple fact remains thus: if you can't do what's right for those around you, you will not only ruin yourself, but you will ruin them too. So that's all there is to this, guys. I'm going to go ahead and close off this stream. It is after 1 o'clock here. I went off on a tangent. Some of it may seemed all over the place. I do apologize. I hope you guys, those of you who watched, I hope you understood what I said. For those of you who stuck with me throughout the stream, as I kind of rattled and ranted and rambled on, and giving my thoughts and reading so many articles, a thumbs up to all of you. Let me know what you guys think as well in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of this pandemic. Let me know how you guys feel the pandemic should be handled. Let me know if you think it's being handled properly. Let me know if you think it's not being handled properly. So again, I close by saying, like the scene I played, if we don't come together right now, we too will be destroyed, just like those before us were. If we don't come together against this virus, we will eventually, many more, thousands, maybe millions more, will die to the virus. Hope you guys have a good night, good day, whatever time it is for you. Enjoy your week. Protect yourself. Protect your neighbors. Protect your loved ones. Stay safe.